the Milton James podcast. I believe we're at episode 6 or 7, one of those. And today we have the good fortune of interviewing my good friend and one of my original mentors, Mr. George Philback. George, at a peak of his career, was cranking out 400 transactions per year. And at Keller Williams, where I started in Waterford Lakes, I was just like, wow, blown away by this guy. And every time you saw him, he was so humble and so gracious, and always wore jeans and a polo, and still does today. But I got him in a jacket. Mr. George Philback.
What's going on, Milton? Good to see you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tagging along. We'll hopefully provide you with, nothing else, some good insights on what not to do, and maybe even 1 or 2 what to do's, and look for a nugget, something that'll help move your business forward. That's really the only reason for getting into any training, is to, advance yourself a little bit. Glad to be here, Milton. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, George. And really, I thought of George because, when I was starting out my journey, you were the guy I looked up to. I mean, there's no one agent in the Orlando market that doesn't know your name, that don't respect you. Back in the day when short sales and REOs were at the peak of the career, you were the guy that everyone wanted to suck up to. If someone wanted to buy a house in East Orlando, they had to be friends with you. And so I had the good fortune of learning from you and going to the Keller Williams classes. And I just wanted to hear about you and about what you went through at the beginning of your career, and really just what we can learn from you. Who is Mr. George Philback?
Well, he's a father of 4, married man. Been in real estate for about 20 years. I started, and I'll just start with the background so you guys get an idea. I was in the restaurant business my whole life. I had worked for a bunch of different companies, local, international companies, Virgin Islands. Here I was working for a company. I'm not going to mention the name of McCormick and Schmick restaurant. I won't do that. It would be inappropriate to mention that. And we opened our first restaurant here in the Florida market. And my direct report changed from my regional manager, who was amazing, to vice president. And again, I'm not going to mention Dave Jenkins' name because that would be inappropriate too. This 65-year-old bald son of a bitch who decided he could smoke cigars anywhere, anytime. It was also appropriate for him to solicit my 18-year-old servers and hostesses. And I finally said, that's not going to work for me. I ended up reporting them. They said they'd get back to me in a couple of days. So I called them back a couple of days later, and they said, we're going to have a talk with them. In the meantime, I had found out that this is not the first, second, it was actually like 3rd or 4th time this had come up. And that's just not a world I need to be involved with. And I was just really fed up. So I said, I'm going to quit. And my wife that I was married to, the mother of my 2 boys at the time, said, well, you should get into real estate. I said, that's a really, really good idea. I think I'll do just that. So I found a gentleman named Mike Krantz, who's brilliant, still brilliant. Coach for KW now. He's one of the MAPS coaches for him. But he was the top agent, sold me my home, the first home I ever bought about 6 months earlier, and was also the top agent in East Orlando. So I went up to him. I said, Mike, I'm going to get into real estate. I'm going to work for you. You can take as much money as you want. I don't really care, whatever's fair. But you need to make sure I don't screw up and that I don't make a mistake. And he goes, yeah, I'm down on that. That'd be great. I'll take 50 cents of every dollar you make, which was pretty fair and average at that point. So we got started. And I got to get through this part because it's kind of relevant. So the first 3 years of my real estate career, 95% of my focus was on phone calls for sale by owners. I had a very big schedule. We can get to that in a little bit. But with Mike, I said, what should I do? He goes, well, you should call for sale by owners. I said, that's terrific. And I'll never forget that first day. He goes, here's a number of like 20 for sale by owners. Make a phone call. And he put me in a glass office and said, start dialing. Gave me a script. Came back an hour later. How'd he go? He goes, I went pretty well. I had one person that they weren't real nice. They hung up on me. The other one, we talked for like 5 minutes or so. He goes, what about the rest of us? I said, well, that was it. That's all I got through. And y'all know, because I mean, everybody on this call is prospecting based. I was mortified by this. My drunk monkey, everything in my brain was going off. But that first year, I ended up selling 26 homes for sale by owners. This is 2003, which was a crazy busy real estate market. But if you become good at something and you focus on it, as Milton had done, and he said not to compliment him, but he's extraordinary on objections and scripts and phone calls. I got very good at it and ended up with 26 homes that first year, all for sale by owners, all sellers.
Wow.
I never worked with a buyer.
Wow. What so the first year you sold 26 homes.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was year 2 through 5 like for you guys?
All right, so same thing for sale by owners exclusively. To be fair, at this point in year two, I started adding farming. I had 112 farm unit, or 112 home farm that was the subdivision I lived in. So I made it a point
Okay.
of making sure I met everybody, knocked on every door, delivered things regularly. My business went up to about 33, and that was, or 32, excuse me, 2004. Uh, and of that, about 20% was farm and 80% was for sale by owner. So it really followed and matched what I gave focus to. And my for sale by owners was getting better and better, and even more competitive market. Guys, in this point, it's kind of like where we're at right now, except there were more for sale by owners. You could literally put a sign in the yard, and inside of about an hour, you'd have 3 offers on your home. That's how the market was. Sounds familiar to where we're at right now. Pay attention. Perhaps we need to talk about what the market's going to look like, and why most of the people on this call, because of your focus and because of what you do, will survive, and a lot in the next couple of years are going to be challenged. I think you guys are above that because you're already active, as opposed to a passive real estate agent. You wouldn't be on the call if you were passive, which is cool. So we can talk about real stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
2005, it got up to, I think, like 36 or something like that. Same ratio at that point. 2006 was about the same. Now, our market stopped, as did most. We didn't see it, publicly didn't see it. But in 2005, the market kind of slowed down. It just, there's this like flock of birds mentality where everybody goes, that's it. It's too much. It's just crazy.
What was year one? What year?
2003.
2003 was year one. So that was the year you did the 26 homes.
Yep.
Year two, which was 2004, you went up to 36 homes.
32.
32. So you started farming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what you said, 112 people. How are you working that farm?
Farming was a knock on door kind of thing where I'm perfectly cool with phone calls. The face-to-face part was something that was a little uncomfortable for me. So I get up at 5 in the morning. That was part of my workout. Once a month, I'd stick something in everybody's door. And nice. That was how I started. I also put I got a map together. We have an IMAP tax system in it. You map out the houses. And I said, I'm going to personally meet every single person in this neighborhood. And it took me 2 years to do it. But I literally shook every single person's hand. I just said, I'm going to make it a purpose. When you're farming, if anybody's going to get into farming and you're in the area, chances are they're going to get to know you. If you have an opportunity, compliment them on anything, and then write them a thank you note. That was my main thing. I compliment them. Hey, it was so nice to meet you face to face, and be a thank you note. And it's all about relationship.
Got it. Okay. Like in NLP, we call that a sugar lump. You lead with a compliment, right? That's good. And so you made it a purpose to shake everyone's hands within the 2 years. Mm-hmm. So essentially, you almost added them to your database.
Well, no, I absolutely did, Adam. And it was, remember, I had a board that had every single house in there. So I'd write their names on it because, that's just how we did it back then. I wanted to know every single person. I knew their dog's name if they told me their dog's name. I kept a pad with me when I was walking. I'd walk around the community. And of course, I'd wear my branded shirt. At that point, I had gone over to Keller Williams. So I wanted to know I was a real estate agent, but I also wanted to know I was a neighbor. And I led with neighbor, never talked about real estate.
No, that's all. So you led with value, shook their hand, let them know you were part of their family, which made them familiar to you.
Exactly.
Oh, good for you, man. So what was year 3 like?
36 homes. Same thing. I was getting more from my farm at this point. I ended up capturing 90% of the farm by 2005. 90% of the homes sold, which was maybe 10 per year. It was the same thing, the 90-10 ratio or 10% ratio. My for sale by owners was kicking it. But guys, you got to remember, in October of 2005, the market changed. Where we may now go into, if you go into a new home developer and there's no inventory, well, we had it a little different back then. You'd go in, and as they release the homes, they do a lottery system. So there'd be 50 people there with their agents. And they just do a drawing. And the first person, your home is $305,000. Your home is $315,000. The next one, number 3, is $325,000. We had lines for that. It stopped in October of 2020 or 2005.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too, because that's why we're on this call.
Right. Well, hold on a second. This is important, Milton. No, I can't miss this part of it. Guys, it took about a year to really see it. And we didn't, and you never really do see it until September or October. Be aware of what's happening this September and October, and more importantly, what's going to go into the following one. And we can talk about that later if you want to, but there's a change coming if it's not already kind of in place.
Yeah, I feel that too. So would you say that year 3 to 4 was your blow up year, or what was the blow up year from year 3 to 4 to 5?
So with 2005, I'll never forget it. It was just ending. I'm like, something's different. I spoke to a friend of mine who was my coach at the point. I said, what's happening? He goes, the market's about to change. So I started saying I need to enhance my prospecting abilities because I'm limited on time. And quite honestly, I was limited on, I got to throw this out. Mike Krantz was my coach. He's a great guy. I love him to death. That son of a bitch never told me about expireds or withdrawns, so I only called for sale by owners, and I blame him for my success. I should be more successful. He didn't tell me that they were easier and a better call, so I'm calling FSBOs, and he's calling for expires and withdrawns because he's a Mike Ferry guy. I used to coach with Mike all the time, and I'm like, you son of a bitch. This is like 3 years later. I'm like, you bastard didn't even tell me that there was a better way. Anyway, food for thought.
Yeah. So was he a MAPS coach back then, or was he with Mike at the time?
He was with Mike. We were all with Mike at the time. We didn't get it. He didn't get into MAP coaching until the market crashed in 8 or 9 because it was an additional resource. To your point, to your question though, we saw something changing, and I started saying, okay, I've got to come up with a way to plus my business. I had something called the 45-day guarantee that I figured out I should back up. I wanted to do some marketing, but I didn't want to do traditional. I wanted to do television. So I went and did some research on the 2 strongest people in the country in television. And one's Marcy Willems and the other one is Russell Shaw, and they're both out of Arizona. So I went out there and I'll get the answer to that one in just a second. I went out there to interview them and meet with both of them because I wanted to learn, and that pursuit and saying, hey, I just want to follow you for a while. Introduced me to TV, and that next year sold 150 homes. Very few were for sale by owner at that point. Most were through marketing based, and of course, my farm was very successful at that point because it's 3 years seasoned.
That was 06?
That was 6, going really into 07. Now, also, guys, the market was starting to change. People started to realize that their home couldn't just go on the market. The truth is, as professionals, we became more valuable in a declining market or in a transitioning market. I believe, and time will only tell, it's just a speculation at this point. I believe that we're transitioning, like at the end, in October and November, we start a good transition. In the next year or two, a couple of years, will be transitionary. I may be wrong, but we'll see.
Well, to be honest with you, there's a couple guys on this call right now. Dean Clark, his boys, Zach Purdy, myself. We're waiting for that transition because if I don't know about you, Dean, but I'm kind of tired of all the celebrity realtors, the fake realtors in front of the fancy cars and the big houses. I can't wait to take your business. Go ahead, George.
Well, so that's in 2007 or 2006 and 7. I started with the TV, and I had something as simple as I guarantee to sell your home in 45 days, or I'll step in and pay the mortgage until it does. It's a simple call to action, but I thought it was a little more authentic. And as long as you're not in Central Florida, plagiarize the hell out of it. Although I own 45-day guarantee already, so can't have that website. And I'm with you. I'm waiting for this transition. I'm waiting for the market to come back where the value of negotiating, of literally finding out their priorities. That's what we do. The value of knowing the numbers, knowing the community numbers, knowing everything about that. The expertise that we all have on this call by being in the business and working it on a regular basis, as opposed to, as you said, Milton, the celebrities who are just flash. Y'all are about, I'm not implying that you're not celebrities, but y'all are about to become infinitely more valuable to the consumer than we've been in the last 10 to 12 years.
That's awesome. And so you spiked up to 150 homes in 2006, 2007. You started, getting on TV. Were you still maintaining the for sale by owners, the farming business as well?
The farming for sure. I will never, ever walk away from something like that because it's something that you can maintain at a very cost-effective scenario. For anybody that's doing direct mail, that's doing farming and anything like that, if you're going to do EDDM, that's terrific. But if you're really going with very targeted mail, please, for your sake, write this down. Amplifiedmail.com is the least expensive mail house I have found, and I have spent years searching for that. So if that's something you're going to do, even if it's with your database, and we could talk about this, but if not this time, at some other time. But think about this. when you're talking to your database is all I'm going to give you on that, unless you guys want more of it. If you're talking to your
We
database,
want more, baby. We
right.
want more.
Well, if you're going to have a conversation with your database, don't talk to them about real estate. Talk to them about relationships. No, that doesn't mean that after you've created a relationship, remember, nobody will buy from you unless they trust you, know that you actually give a damn about them, and that you're genuinely listening and interested in them. If you're waiting to talk, you're not going to win. Your database, the people that are already in a relationship, you have a very limited opportunity for them to say, I need to sell right now. You caught me at just the perfect time.
Yeah.
You can create a relationship and have those conversations, and there's a way at which to do it where you can absolutely do it at a massively high level. And if you want, we can cover that later, because the database is something I love. But you should be able to also send out postcards that are evidence of success. Amplified mail is the best for one-off. It's the best for inexpensive. It's 64 cents to put out a card like this. And this is a really shitty example, but it's 64
No, I'm just curious. I see the George Philback picture. Who's that pretty lady on the card?
That's my secret weapon. That, ladies and gentlemen, is my 5'2" Cuban wife, who is infinitely smarter, infinitely more bold, and better on the phones than I could ever be. She is, boy, did I outkick the coverage at Married Up. That's for sure.
Well, I remember when we were chatting back in the day, you wanted 5'4", but she came up 2 inches short.
She's about 1.5 feet taller than I thought she was. That's for sure. She's pretty awesome.
Sometimes 2 inches don't matter, right, guys?
I don't know, right? You're not going to get me to own that. Not ever, dude. That was just.
Got it.
Did you just seriously? You just went there? Or just like I can't run into the camera real quick, okay?
So year 2006, 7, you went to 150 homes, which is my goal this year. I know Dean Clark on the call. His goal is that as well. How did that feel?
The biggest challenge at that point is staffing issues, for sure. I mean, think about that. When you're transitioning from 50 to 150, you are doing a lot of staff adjustments. And for everybody on the call, if the first one is an admin, you're wrong. Because admin takes things off your plate. It's not, I'm going to get more buyer's agents and then, I'll make $1 million. Bullshit. They'll all lead you because you're not going to lead well and there's no support behind it. You got to hire an admin first. In fact, I would recommend hiring 2 admin before you hire a buyer agent, period. And then obviously you can support yourself with your buyer teams and work away from that. But what we did, the vast majority of this was staffing issues. And then I had to hire listing specialists to go out on all these appointments because they were literally, it cost $1,000 per spot on TV. So if everybody out there that's thinking about this and you're outlaying usually about 2 months worth of spots before you really start to see anything come in. And if you're going to run spots, say 3 days a week, you do the quick math, 3 times 4 is $12,000 out of pocket before the phone even rings. It was horrifying.
So a lot of the Mike Furry agents listening, we're getting a little sharp pains in our sides. I'm just going to ask the obvious question. Was that profitable?
Massively.
Really?
Massively. Sorry.
Tell me why.
It is. Well, I mean, think about this. If you're, so what I'm absolutely a belief of is you need to be out calling people. You need to be belly to belly with people that are in the market to either buy or sell. If you don't have enough in your database, you better get on the phone with circle prospecting, which is one of my favorite. Expireds or withdrawals, that's right now money, but that is a high skill set. You guys have it. Most people don't. Capitalize. Nobody will compete with you. There was a question that was asked I didn't want to forget. The difference between for sale by owners and expireds and withdrawals is expireds and withdrawals are already taken off the market. They're seasoned against it. It takes a high skill set, in my opinion, to help them realize that there is still an opportunity for success. For sale by owners are like, yeah, come over, take a look at the house. But there's 6 to 8 weeks at a minimum, and you're fighting a bunch of people. It doesn't require as much skill. You can get away with it if you're personality based, and the skills will come later. I believe that your highest efficiency is going to be withdrawals, expireds, your database, circle prospecting, and finally for sale by owners, in that order. That's just how I would do it, how I did it. But it's a variable. I had to answer that question that came up earlier.
Yeah. So after 2008, then, 2008 to 2010, what was that like in your business?
That was kind of a transition. So somewhere around 2007, we knew it was coming. And I will tell you, I don't think that this is going to come again. I don't think we're going to revisit what we did in 2005, 6, 7, and 8. In 2006, when the market was really starting to shift a little bit, we were watching it. Inventory time went up dramatically. There were more homes on the market, not as much we're selling. And we were starting to hear a lot about predatory lending. We knew the market was going to crash, so I started pursuing a relationship with Fannie Mae and with anybody I could possibly find. And again, for all of you, Mike Ferry Ice is going to stick you in the stomach. I spent thousands of dollars flying to Texas and taking them out to dinner and doing things that we can't do anymore. But it worked. And in 2008, they called me up. I'd had a couple smaller companies that I was working for, easier to get into, and I got a call from Fannie Mae and shortly after Freddie Mac. They said, we want you to help us because you're selling a fair amount of homes. You have a success, and you also got a track record in distributions. And that led to, well, and you didn't allude to this, and I don't normally say this in a large circle, but in 2009, for 2009, I was the top agent for Keller Williams worldwide. We did the numbers in 2010, sold exactly 997 homes that year with a lot of admin, and that was just the listing side for my properties. And most of those, with the exception of maybe 30 or 40, were bank-owned properties through distributions. And that's an entirely administrative environment.
Wow. Okay. So it was a lot of processing.
I'm sorry?
There's a lot of processing.
100%. You've got the property before, you've got the property during the reconstruction and the repair, you've got the property through listing. At any given time, I had $500,000 out for quite a few years. It was out in reimbursements waiting to come back in. It's definitely worth an opportunity to get into a bigger relationship with something like that. But most every time you do so, you will lose on the financial side, and it becomes a McDonald's environment where it is strictly volume and not service. It is not the most profitable, that's for sure.
So at 1,000 homes a year, you were less profitable than you were at 150?
Nah, 2,000 homes. When I sold 1,000 homes even for, I made a shitload of money. I mean, who are we kidding? But sorry, it's just the truth. It was just, we were rolling in it. But the job sucked. I mean, literally, think of the worst job you have when you're dealing with foreclosures. And I had a staff of 25 people. Whatever you decide to do, if you start going into scale, you become very admin, and very admin takes away from people. And for me, I like people, and I'm a people person. I have to have contact with people. The worst job in the REOs, I tell this because this is somebody said this to me, and I'm going to take the credit that is actually true. This is how you lead. The worst job is this. Hi, my name is George. I'm here to kick you out of your house. Here's the note that proves it. You're going to have to leave. And that sucks. I mean,
that's not a good relationship builder, is it?
Well, ironically, it actually is, but that's not the purpose. It's the worst job, and I couldn't have my staff doing it. But I mean, I'd either talk to 5 or 6 people, or I could talk to one person for 2.5 hours, and they literally were in tears. And from 9 to noon daily, that was my job. Because I had other staff that did it too, but I needed to be in there doing it. And what it did is gave me an amazingly strong and really resilient Scotch habit, because you get home and you're like, your soul is empty. So remember, you're going to lose the bigger you get. If you say, I just want to scale, scaling's great. But if you lose touch with the conversations, it becomes heartless, and it's really kind of chilly. So I just had to throw that in there.
So 2011 is when we met. What was life like between 2009 and 2011?
A lot of sailing.
Sailing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we're doing pretty well. So started having some fun with it. It was actually that's actually not true. I didn't have to do as much of the day-to-day stuff because I was staffed accordingly. And as you scale, that's what happens. And the transition went because it's obviously a massively competitive market. Anything we're going to do at a high level is competitive. Think of Michael Jordan. If he slacked off and didn't do summer training, he's going to be horrible. And when it comes to season, there's many people that are going to run right over the top of him. Same thing. If we weren't working with a client, or we weren't working on a particular property, we were aggressively and actively working on our systems, making sure that everything we did was better than it was yesterday. We had all over the place, 1% per day was what we put out there. Something else that I should have coined this. Everything is time on task over time. You can accomplish whatever you want. But when if you get to the point where you're feeling like you're kind of at a pinnacle of your career, it's going well, start looking at what you're doing and make it better. And then start trimming your money. And that's really relevant for the next couple of years. Don't waste money, please. It's going to get really tight. Promise you. So your expenses.
Thank you for saying that. So 2011 to 2015, what was that like? Because the market started, kind of trickling back up, right?
So we were scaling back a whole lot because we had at 25 staff. I went down to probably around 6 or 7 at that point. We started exploring virtual assistants, which there's a plus to that. There surely is. I have a couple right now, and at that point I had like 5. And transitioning, we were looking at how do we protect our financial position, but we also, and for everybody out there, protecting your financial position is not circling the wagons. It's usually becoming more aggressive in what you're doing. If you feel like the world is falling apart, make more phone calls, talk to more people, get engaged with more people, and provide higher service. We're going to get this, boy, I believe this with every fiber of my body. The next couple of years, the people left standing at the top, the people that are doing it, will have phenomenal relationships as well as incredible service for their clients. They will be white glove all the way. Look at what you're doing for your clients right now. How do you make it better? I talked to you about this, Milton. You and I cover this on a regular basis. How do you go from really good service and it's a machine to extraordinary service where they refer you to everybody? Because folks, your relationships will kick the shit out of Zillow and Open Door and OfferPad every day, all day long, and twice on Sunday. So if you sell a home for somebody, make sure you provide them with a level of service that they say, God, I want somebody else to get this too.
Yeah, specifically, what would that look like?
We had this come up just a couple days ago. There was a property that we were listing, and we knew it was going to sell. We were in relationships, so there wasn't really a risk of them pulling out of it, and we're protected by the contract. And we're going through the property, and they're like, we're looking at it, and we're like, these windows are pretty nasty. I mean, they really, really were. And the person that's listing, it's a nice home, but the windows just didn't get any attention. They're like, oh, we need to get that taken care of. And I said, well, it's probably cost about $1,000 or so to get that done. We're going to take care of it because that's what we do. We need to make sure that you have the highest probability for the absolute greatest amount of sale for you. So we'll pay for the window to have our team come out and they'll do it. We'll have to give you a call and set up a time. They immediately referred somebody else to us, which we're going to list next week. So sometimes amazing service is doing the right thing that impacts them. Don't throw money, throw service. This was a service that she couldn't do. We did it for her. It happened to have money so we could add a value to it. I got to tell a story, and this will kind of this should kind of summarize it for all of you. Most people here, phone prospectors. Is that fair? Show of hands, thumbs up, thumbs down, or head. Yeah, prospectors, right on. Cool. Look for challenges, look for problems. So give me a rating. This is great service, this is good service, and this is really bad service. You take your car into a shop, muffler shop, it's Amco. You bring it in, so the muffler's giving me an issue. They say, George, it's going to be $295. You drop it off, you come back 2 days later. You pay them the $295. They're like, great, here you go. They give you the keys, go out to the parking lot, you grab your car, you drive away. The transmission falls out 1 mile down the road, literally falls out of your car, hits the ground. Good service, great service, or shitty service? It's pretty bad, right? You call them up, you're pissed off. You're like, what the heck? They're like, hang tight, Mr. Philbeck. We'll be there in about 5 minutes. Just stay right there. We'll be right there. We'll assess it. We'll take care of everything. They show up 5 minutes later. You're steaming mad. They got a flatbed. They said, we're going to flatbed the thing back for you. Here's a rental car for you. It's already taken care of. Just sign right here. You sign right here. Good service, great service, or bad service, all things considered. It's probably good service at that point, right? They're owning the thing. It's not extraordinary. They call you 2 days later. They say, your car's ready. I said, great, I'll come by and pick it up. I said, no, sir, we're going to bring it to you. You tell us where you are. We're coming over there. They bring it over there. You give them the rental car back. They just sign here. We're going to take care of everything. The car's got a full tank of gas. It's been washed, and they dropped it off at your building. Great service, good service, or great. This is great service, right? Y'all remember the freaking transmission fell out of the car. Y'all get that? They screwed up so much that the transmission literally dropped out of the car.
Yeah.
Sometimes mistakes are the best opportunity to be extraordinary. And we've been known to build little mistakes in and then fix them. Or when we find one, we fix it and say, hey, we had a problem, but we solved it because that's what we do. Y'all consider that you can become champions by correcting the little things that come involved. Never let your admin tell you, hey, we had something that went by and we took care of it and went away. Let them tell you before it happened or while it's happening so you can pass that on to your clients because your clients want to know about mistakes, especially the ones you've already fixed. Be careful. It will make you a celebrity if you do that.
Yeah, that's really powerful, man. Thank you so much. And so, I'm trying to map this out. So the peak, it sounds like it was 997 transactions.
997 transactions. Yeah, that was the top.
What happened, George? You couldn't do 3 more deals?
Milton, I didn't know my numbers. I swear to God, I was so busy with what I was doing. I didn't find it out until like May. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I would have bought and sold 3 homes just on principle to say 1,000. Now it's a joke. It's a funny mistake and a great story, right?
Yeah, Mike always says, just short sale your own house if you need a listing by the end of the week.
That's
And
it.
so, I'm just curious. And going from 1,000 deals to where you're at now, what was that process like?
Well, so obviously you keep an eye on what's going on in the market, scale accordingly. If you're hiring somebody, hire 2. And I don't mean at the same time, but you always want 2 people in the job. Nobody gets to quit and leave you short. We did a lot of very good hiring when we hired, and we were able to transition away from that. If y'all are hiring, I want to give you guys an opportunity to perhaps change some of your questionnaires when you're doing a hire for somebody. If you're hiring somebody, you're ready to make an offer for them, and they're excited about it. You say, this is terrific. I'm really excited. I think I want to go forward with presenting an offer. Are you interested in working? They're going to say yes, affirm that that's a positive. What I want you to do is say, okay, but before we get to that part, I want to know the exit strategy, or I'm going to, here's the offer, whatever it is, but I want to do our exit interview right now. I want to know what you want to do and how long you want to work for me, because sooner or later we're going to leave the company. We're not going to work together. What do you want to get out of this? How can I exceed your expectations on employment and give you the tools to set you free and go about doing it? What does that look like? Especially if you're hiring an admin that wants to be an agent, or you're hiring a buyer agent that wants to go out for you and take over the world. I found a lot of this with the admins. I knew what they were looking, and I kept good track of it. So we always went back to our quarterly, what's going on, how you doing meetings with where they at. One of the requirements were that the only thing I asked them, I give them anything they want, but I asked them to give me at least a 3 to 6 month notice as best they could, and to help me teach the other person to be as amazing as they are. They loved that job. Half of them never left, for sure. But the ones that did always replaced themselves, and they were proud to do so because it was a win for them. It's how you praise, or how you phrase that question. Start with the exit interview. When are you going to leave? What's that look like? How many months? Or years? What do I got to do to exceed your expectations? And now that you've come from reciprocity, which we all know, they have to acknowledge it, and it works out very well. So we scaled down, Milton. Back to your question, we scaled down to the point where we were only getting about 7 listings my last year, which is really 2016, with Keller Williams and with Fannie Mae. I think we're getting about 6 or 7 properties per year, or per month, excuse me. And we're managing it very well with one administrator and an inspector and a virtual assistant. And it was time. I was offered an opportunity with something that was a better business model for my career. And it made enough sense for me to walk away from the Fannie Mae relationship, because that stayed with my brokerage with Keller Williams. Actually, they didn't keep it with them because it was with me, but I couldn't move it. They were hiring nobody else. And it just made sense. And then I went into what I call traditional real estate, as opposed to the REO world and that machine in the short sale world. And it was best move I ever made, quite honestly. But anything you want to do, y'all, everybody here, Mike's Fair, y'all know who Freud Candelar is? You ever heard that name?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're old school in this, and everybody that I see is pretty young. Freud was, I met him in 2005. I think it was in Fort Lauderdale at Mike Ferry's annual event. And Freud was on stage, and Freud's a Guyanese guy, I think about, 5'3", 5'4", broken.
Filipino or something?
I'm sorry?
Maybe Filipino?
I'm not sure. I'll trust you on that one. The guy double-sided 90% of his homes, sold 800 homes a year in a 7-block area of Los Angeles. It wasn't Watts, but it was of that kind of caliber. And his entire business model was, hey, you want to sell your home? No, here's my card. Call me when you do. 3 hours a day. On time, on task, over time. Double-sided 90% of his homes, listed 800 homes a year, didn't use the MLS. And that was his entire business model, knocking on doors.
Yeah, he literally had them coming in like a doctor's office. He'd do 1-minute presentation, get 2-3 listings a day. He had like 10 appointments, Zach. It was crazy.
Well,
he's like the OG. His
closings were, and his listing appointments were at 4, 4:15, 4:30, and 4:45, and he'd stop into each one of those. And like you said, he'd do a 1-minute presentation. His administrators would take care of it. But he did what his entire model was: door knocking. Anything you do will work. Time on task, over time. You can get there. But folks, most of us start doing this. wait, I'll do this. But what about that? That looks good. Let's try this. I mean, stop it. Figure out what you're going to do. Become an expert at it. Mine was for sale by owners. I swear to God, I give Mike Krantz all the credit in the world. I was as good as they get it for sale by owners, period. And I never was satisfied that I was done. I kept learning. Are you doing that? Are you satisfied that you're the best that can be there, or you're working towards it? And if you're really good at it, how can you make it better?
Dropping bombs on a.
I never handled a closing transaction until 2014. I never handled paperwork. As soon as I get the contract, I can handle a contract, get it signed. I negotiated everything. But as soon as the contract was in and it was turned over, I turned it over to transaction manager because I needed that time. I was worth more than $375 for about 5 hours. I like to bill out at around $500 an hour.
Wow. So now what? I mean, what are you doing now, George? What are you on a beach or something? Sipping Mai Tai? What's happening?
Not yet. Soon. Another 2 years. 2 years I'll be on a boat. So I've shifted a lot of it. When Jackie and I, when we switched and moved away from that, we really focused more on our database. So we're going to kind of wind down a little bit. It's what I call necessarily the best for everybody. But at this point, I'm 56. And truthfully, I want to spend a good 10 or 12 on the back or on the catamaran around the Caribbean. And I'm going to do it. We switched to a model that is not an old-fashioned business model and really, I think, offered a lot more and allowed me to do something that I had no idea I was interested in, and I didn't really figure it out till a year or two ago. Most of my time now is spent on coaching and mentoring and accountability and helping people reach their goals. I had no clue I love teaching as much as I do. And I'm really glad I didn't figure that out in high school, or I'd be a drunk middle-aged high school teacher. Now at least I get compensated for it substantially better. My wife she's the pit bull. She's just badass good at what she does. And we work together on our listing side. She focuses most of her energy on there. We'll sell 20 to 30 homes a year. It doesn't really matter. We'll probably refer most of them, if not all of them, out next year to our close circle of agents that we partner with really closely. It's not our massive focus. We're 100% in real estate, but we direction our focus somewhere else.
Fair enough. Now, a lot of people watching this in your circle, you guys have the GPS group with EXP, and you guys have a big organization. And this is not an EXP call, but I do want to ask you, a lot of us are wondering, like, how is that process like for you?
Well,
or what's that process like?
So y'all caught this. I never once brought up my brokerage. Wasn't going to do it. I'm going to let Milton do that because this isn't about that. This is in every scenario. Now, I have to give you some background on this, and I would encourage you to consider this going forward. Whatever your model is where you're working, if it works for you, that's the only thing that matters. And remember, change is something that is can get a little wonky. But Jackie and I were looking at this, and we said, we need a business model that is a modern business model that will support us in the future, that actually allows us to be owners. And even when I was presented with it, I didn't believe it. So I interviewed 72 agents, the CEO, the COO, the CFO of the company. And I finally said, this is the right business model. And it freaked me the hell out because I walked away from 7 free listings a month. All right, y'all get that. I just said, I'm going to walk away from it because I knew it was going to go down, and it did. Cool, because there's been a moratorium for 2 years. Dodged a bullet. Foreclosures. It just turned out to be an amazing model. I own part of the company. I have, after 4 years, I have $500,000 in value in stock that was given to me in this company. I have passive income that exceeds $30,000 a month from helping to grow the company. Basically, I get to be a broker without being a broker. But the thing is, I'm not interested in recruiting. And that's important. I like to put that out there. That's not part of my model. I have people that I like and I respect this. So I want you to take a look at this because it really is a better model. It's not the old-fashioned business model. It's the new model. It's a platform. The easiest way to put it. Think about it. Amazon's a platform. Amazon took Sears and Macy's out of the equation. Sears and Macy's, we want extra money because we're going to facilitate this for you. EXP said, forget it. We're going to do the same thing. We don't need a broker who's sitting up on high saying how to do things. We do. We have many brokers, but we don't want direction from them. We just want support so we can do our business our way. And that was very appealing because I get to keep my brand. I get to keep my business. It's liberating. I'm not kidding. I will be on a catamaran. I was looking at them today again. There's a 38-foot I might buy, but it's probably a little small.
So are
And
you more excited about that, or are you more excited about when you were selling 1,000 homes a year?
well, as I said, man, it's given me the opportunity to help support people to reach their goals, which is something I didn't know I loved as much as I do. And that's where I spend a vast majority of my day. How can I be of support to my partners? I have almost 1,000 business partners that we all work together. The GPS is a acronym for Growth Partnership and Synergy, and the GPS Global Partners, there's about 1,000 of us worldwide. And our focus is how do we help somebody reach their goals? Hell, Milton, you've been on the call because we got quite a few people that are prospecting, and you're the best I know. So I said, listen, help them. We have a mastermind call, a workshop call every day. So this is a lot of fun for me because this is what I love to do. And we brought Milton on, and I had like 20 people go, all right, I need more of this guy. I mean, he's just unbelievably cool. It's about helping people.
Nice. Well, listen, thank you, George. I'm going to open it up for some questions. I know we had a couple come through the chat. Please ask George a few questions, anything that's on your mind. Again, George was doing 1,000 transactions. He's a killer. You know, he is one of the best OG salespeople I know, and he comes from the same background we do. So go ahead and ask some questions.
Yeah.
I had one come through. It says, what was your lead follow-up system with for sale by owner? That was from Nina.
Okay, now that's a killer question. I had an 8-week follow-up system that we had worked on. The first week I go see the property, ask them their intentions. What are they going to do? The most important question, what would you do if your home doesn't sell? Where are you going to go when your home doesn't sell? Start to get to know it. And then I'd ask them, I said, do you have a seller's disclosure? You're going to want that to protect yourself. They usually said no. The second week would be homeowners association disclosures. It's a required document in my state. The third week would be just to stop by. If you thought about an open house, I'd love to host one for you. We're very good at what we do. And obviously, if they're not interested in your home, I'll be glad to help them find another home, but I want to help you. And then if you go 8 weeks into it, you have a very high probability, but you have to get there. You have to come from contribution every single week, and you have to have it scheduled or you'll forget it. And it is all about follow-up. Everybody off every week too. So it's longevity in this. That's how I did it.
I got you. So it's like an 8x8 almost with some value attached to it.
That's exactly where it came from, Milton. That's exactly what we decided to do. It was actually, it was coming from, at that point, Matt Ferry. Matt was kind of the instigator for how to go about doing that. And he was great with his scripts. We were doing NLP with him at that point, or Mike was, and I was piggyback on it for free. Sorry, Matt. Yeah, that's right. I stole your business. But it's just great stuff. Mike Ferry he's, for 5 years, it was all about Mike and doing the right thing all the time.
Another question came. Yeah, Zach Purdy had a good question. I'm not really understanding it, Zach. You go ahead and unmute yourself.
I know what it is, Zach. I got you.
No. I'm going to make him talk.
So, Zach, you're saying, so when you're doing that and they end up selling themselves, which happens quite frequently in this market, right? We had them, they were so overpriced in there, and we didn't have as much distribution through Zillow at that point. And Zillow's a big distributor. They could only do it through the newspaper back then, so it's a little bit different. We didn't have them selling right away. I mean, a lot of them did, but it was the ones that were overpriced. We were able to get in, and once we created that trusting relationship where they knew we were going to be here and we weren't about it, they said, all right, so tell us what we should do. And we'd immediately go into a pricing conversation. Well, how has it been so far? And a lot of times, because remember, the market's going up at that point. It was really going up like it is now. They said, well, why don't we try it at your price? And then if we don't get it sold, let's start stepping it down based on showings, not on what we think it's going to be. And let's let the market dictate the transition. And they were very agreeable to that, because it was really, because we increased their showings immediately by the MLS. I mean, instantly. They got quite a few showings. They didn't get any offers and started trickling off. I knew it was another couple of weeks to keep their home before we get it sold, but we got them down and they started to do it. I hope that answers it. Did that hit it?
Yeah, well, I was more so saying, what would you do differently now?
Good question. I think the for sale by owners are probably a little more aggressive. I wouldn't wait for a 3 or 4 week or an 8 week period of time. I'd probably try and step that up over the course of about 2 weeks. In the very first conversation, do you have a seller's disclosure? You really need one. Are you comfortable with the contract? Are you planning on doing an open house this weekend? Tuesdays are always my pitch days, or I would call them on Tuesdays. But I would increase it, and I haven't done it for a while, Zach, so I don't have the dialogue down as well as I did. I just think that everything is much tighter now and much shorter. And truthfully, they expect it sold in like 3 days, because that's what he
do.
So if they're not sold in a week, they're going, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
How did I screw up? What did I do wrong? And that's a good thing.
Okay.
That help?
Yep, it does. Thank you.
All right.
Anyone else have a question before I let you guys go? We got 6 minutes. I got a question. So you're brand new in real estate and you had to start over knowing everything you know over the last 10, 20 years. Day one in real estate, you just got your license. George Philback, what are you doing to get another 20, 30, 50 deals in the next few years?
Putting together a list of all the people that are in my database that I'm never, ever going to ignore again. Absolutely, without reservation, without question, number one. It's something I ignored for the better part of 15 years, and I'm paying for it. I should be, think about this, guys. I have 5,000 homes I sold between 2006 and 2017. That is one hell of a lot of people I could have been in a relationship with. I should be swimming in thousands or literally 400 sales a year if did nothing else except communicate via postcard and keep them up to date about their current value, even when I was representing the seller and the buyer. I didn't manage data I already had. And that's really the trick. You guys got so much, a new agent, everybody has so much data that they need to manage, and it's mainly database. After that, if you're not in front of at least talking to at least 50 people a week that you don't know, that are new, or that you do know that are fully engaged, you're going to be unsuccessful.
You mean per day, right?
I'm sorry?
50 a week. You mean 50 per day?
Well, there's some people that'll talk to 100 per day, and I call them Milton James and kind of psychotic and not very stable. For all of you ladies particularly, don't ever go out drinking with this guy. I mean, he may look good, but he's not all there. He really is. No, he's a great guy.
My mom is watching, George.
That's it. Hey, listen. Now, mom, we love. But honestly, what I strongly encourage you to do is you got to have right now business, and that's usually prospecting based in some way. It could be open houses, which I love too. You know, an open house, have 40 people go through. That counts. That's business. You're going to close for, you give me 20 weekends, I'll give you 20 closings. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Just doing open houses. If you add prospecting in there, if you're on point, it's hard to fill 20 hours with legitimate lead generation. If you can do that, you're going to be great.
Yeah, I don't really know any poor prospectors.
No, I don't either. And here's my schedule. This is right out the gate. And this applies to anybody that's going to do this. I would get up at 5 o'clock and I'd exercise from 5 to 6, walk around the neighborhood, whatever I do. Get back at 6, take a shower, 6 to 6:30 with shower, get ready, get squared away. 6:30 to 7, I get my phone. At that point, I had to get my own numbers. I get my own numbers set up, so I was ready to dial when it came time. 7 to 7:30, I'd feed my kids breakfast. I had 2 infants at that point. 7:30 to 7:40, I do my chanting. 7:40 to 7:50, I would do my role play and objection handling with my accountability and role play partner. And we couldn't call people legally till 8 o'clock. So at 7:50, I'd start dialing the phone. And I was on the phone nonstop till 9 o'clock. And then I needed a 10-minute break because I had a lot of pressure building up to then. And I'd go out and I'd smoke, I don't know, 3 cigarettes. Don't do that, bad habit. And just run and get my energy back up. I'd come back in at 9:10, and 9:10 to 10 o'clock, I'd be on the phone again, 5-minute break from 10:05 to 11 o'clock on the phone. And if I got everything done and I didn't have any business, I had the rest of the day. But if I didn't, I'd be doing whatever I needed to do to get ready to go out on these appointments and go do what I needed to do. And Tuesdays were always full. That was my schedule. That's the reason I was successful, is I stuck to that schedule probably 3.5 days a week. Being realistic, nobody's perfect at it except for, I don't know, neurotic moron people like Milton, who can literally call for 12 hours of clip. I couldn't do it. I think that's awesome. You can though.
Thank you. We had another question.
Somebody had their hand up.
Yeah,
it was me. It was me. Yes.
Hi.
Well, hi, Mr. Philbeck. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
George.
I don't want to say George.
That is much better. Thank you.
Well, just to let you know, I think I showed 500 of your homes in 2011, probably. But anyway, the question was about what would you advise us, like, to be prepared for the next, next transition? I mean, we know our industry is going to happen. So what will be the advice? So how can we be prepared?
Without reservation, start working on your database. Okay. Remember, when the market transitions, a lot of people have in their mind right now, that, oh, I know what's happening. It's you can sell a home right away. They're going to have this. What the heck is going on? Is the sky falling forever? You're the wealth of knowledge to the people that look up to you, respect you for your business savvy. Communicate with them, not about refer. That's going to happen, and it can happen organically, and you can happen with questions. But have conversations with your database about them, about how they're doing. You probably have already. I'm assuming. Could you come up with 100 people that would pass what I call the grocery store test? That's that. If you saw them down an aisle of a grocery store, you got really two options. The first option is you duck, run, hit the ground, rolling because you recognize them, but you don't remember their name. And you don't want to look stupid. But you have at least 100 people or even 50 people where if you saw them in a grocery store, you could go down and say hi to them and ask them a question about their life, and they know something about you too. Most people do. You just have to look for it. That's the beginning of your database. Those are the people that, besides your prospecting, which is your right now business and must continue. That's the casual calls during the week you need to be strategic. That's what I would do more than anything. Is I would absolutely make sure that I was supplementing my business and the relationships that I have and strengthening them right now, because a year from now won't be the time to start. We'll already be in it, okay. I believe. And even if we aren't, it's still going to be a great time, because remember, all you're doing is having a conversation about them and telling them you love them and that they're important. That's database.
Now, let's be clear. You're not referring to database as just a CRM. You're talking about actual relationships.
I'm talking about actual relationships with 100 people. And if you do it the proper way, those 100 people will refer to you anywhere from 20 to 30 closings right there. And they don't cost a penny. They're a lot of fun, and the people already trust you and you're not fighting. It's a lot of fun. There are people that have a database of 200, and they're closing 40 sales a year. Their expense is no more than $10,000 to do so. Okay. And they're living a very casual life, but you can't do that overnight. I would say start that right now. Continue to make that a part of it. It's 15 minutes a day of phone calls. Send them an evidence of success once a month. So honestly, reach out to me if you want to. I'll go through the whole thing with you. There's so much opportunity, and it takes 15 minutes a day and maybe 30 minutes a month. And the 30 minutes a month you can give to an admin. Okay, but 15 minutes a day in your job for database calls is this. Oh my God, you're awesome. I missed you. How are you? That was great. It looks like you had fun at Waterworld or you went to Wally World. It doesn't matter. It's about them. It's not about you. And if they ask about the market, diffuse it. So this isn't a real estate call. It's a personal call. They won't work with you until they know you, trust you, or have to, because there's no other option. When you're calling expireds and withdrawals, make sure that they can trust you, and make sure that you talk about you a little bit, meaning what is your authentic you when it's appropriate to do so when you're there, because they need to have a relationship to do that, or they're coming strictly from fear. Make sense? Sorry,
makes perfect sense. Last week we had Yoki Melnick on the call, and she gave me credit for stealing my thinking about you script when I call my database. Mm-hmm. The truth is, I stole it from George. I don't know if you remember, you used to call every other month. You'd call this month of business call. Next month you'd say, hey, just thinking about you. How are you? How are you? How are the kids? And then the next month it'd be a business call.
Well, we found that we've got a little more effect where we give it about 4 months of seasoning it, where there's no business. In fact, we push them away how's the real estate market? And this is your response. Market's great, but this isn't a real estate call. This is a personal call. I'll be back in the office in an hour. If you want to talk real estate, do you? Can I call you then? Oh, no, just check it. Good, because this is just me reaching out to my friend. I wanted you to know I was thinking about you, and then I talk about something about them. I want to diffuse it. 4 months in, though, you're absolutely right, Milton. One's a request, one's not. One's a request. And the best way to get a referral is to figure out a way to find out what the hell they do and make sure that they show up inside of your vendor list where you can start referring people to them. That'll make a big difference too. And that's all knowledge.
100%. 100%. Thank you, George. Is there anything else you guys want to ask Mr. George Philback, the living legend of real estate in Orlando, Florida?
Yeah, I don't know if I go that far, but thank you. Thanks, guys, for having me on. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. I put on a jacket and everything for you. I'm still wearing boxer shorts, but just so you know, I do have a jacket on. Yeah. Have an amazing year. Remember, it'd be anything you want it to be. I will tell you this, and I lead with this more than anything else I do. My advice to you is go out and find somebody, make a phone call to somebody that you know that's important to you. Let them know that you love them, that you care about them, and that they're important, they're valuable. Two things. You may never know when it's the exact right time where they needed to hear that. And second, it's going to make you feel really good. And here's the little secret. That, in a nutshell, is database. Let them know they're important. Let them know you care and that you value them. That right there will have them say, I want to work with you. You're the person I trust. You trust, or you work for me. I trust you. That's part of it. But do it just for fun. You're going to find out it's going to make you really happy, and it's going to make somebody else's life change too. So have an amazing day. God bless you guys. And Milton's got my number if you want to reach out to me.
So if you guys need to reach out to Mr. George Philback to send him a referral for a buyer, seller, or even if you're interested in joining his brokerage, your number is, George?
407-925-8433. It's also in the chat.
Excellent. Excellent.
And I'll drop in my email as well. I do best on text. If you leave me a voicemail, I'll never check it. So please text me if you want.
All right, George. Hey, well, listen, thank you, George.
This is Irene.
Thank you, George, for allowing the ringtones to go off. And you are the man. Thank you so much for your time today. And you guys can reach George Philback in Orlando if you need him. So
what are we doing this afternoon at 5?
I'm going to meet you at 5.
Okay. We actually do this, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm just double checking on my calendar. I think we're good. So we've been going back and forth, but he's been running around busy with other stuff. So we are on for 5:30.
You got it.
Because I can't do 5. I just checked my calendar. American Social Work?
All right.
Is that good? You want to do American?